we will go ahead and begin our work study, and Mr. Hoffman is on his way. And whoever would like to start us off, I'm not sure who that is, but...
Mrs. Whitener, let me just introduce those that put this presentation together. We have two of our principals, Dr. Wong and Mrs. Wolf, representing the elementary principals, and then representing our elementary teachers. We have 4 teachers here this evening: Maren Cola, Lori Decker, Erin Pillsbury, and Lisa Witt. So I believe either Dr. Wong or Mrs. Wolf, are you going to start us off?
Good evening. I am Dr. Wong, the principal of Coronado, and thank you for the opportunity to propose an option to offset the negative effects of the recent budget reduction. By changing our present weekly schedule to include an early release once a week, each week, we will gain back sorely needed time to plan and prepare, thus enhancing Higley students' education. Joining me tonight, of course, is Liz Wolf, as well as the rest of the principals, and we won't name them. I'm kidding. It's a work study, right? Okay. So let me introduce a little bit more our 4 teachers. We have Maren Cole, who is a Coronado 6th grade teacher, social studies. She's also our dance party fitness sponsor and our national geography sponsor. She's been in our district for 14 years. Next to her, Lori Decker has been a part of our district for 17 years. She actually left and returned to HUSD because of our strong community, our passion, and our fiscal responsibility. She is the sponsor of the running club for kindergarten through 6th grade and serving 125 students at Chaparral. Erin Pillsbury has been in the district for 11 years. She's been a parent, and she's still a parent, an aide, a student teacher, and has 6 years in the district as a special ed and general ed teacher. She presently is a Santan kindergarten teacher and is in charge of the IPT. In case you don't know, this is the team that provides interventions to make sure that every child succeeds in our schools. Lisa Witt has been in our school district for 6 years and is the 6th grade self-contained gifted teacher and now a pull-out gifted teacher at Centennial. She recently finished the Higley Leadership Academy and is applying her craft serving as the student council advisor. So tonight, we wanted to make sure that you knew, hey, that Higley stands out from the crowd. It is due to our district's ability to plan and execute our high expectation for learning for all of our students. We do not want to lose this quality work that our schools have produced. We are trying to address the unintended negative effects to the teachers' work conditions by filling in the loss of time for preparation and planning. Research indicates that well-planned teams outperform individuals. In order to do that, we need coordinated time. If we can't offer teachers more money to be competitive in the field, then we need to look at new ways to enhance our work conditions. So I'm going to ask Lori to come up and share.
For your time this evening. Please forgive a shaky voice. I don't know if it's just the passion that I have for this or just the intimidation of all of this or the caffeine I mainlined on my way over because it was field day. Anyhow, I appreciate Dr. Wong's introduction, and I just wanted to add, in addition to teaching 26 kindergarten students this year, welcoming in ADAPTS kids, those are the autistic kids, into my classroom, being the curriculum lead, team lead, curriculum lead, the running club, also supporting teachers in a book study to promote health and wellness amongst teachers, because I find that we sometimes put ourselves last. And being here this evening instead of home celebrating with my husband on this, our 20th wedding anniversary. I'm just sharing this with you, not to toot my own horn, but to tell you and just point out that teachers, passionate, quality teachers are altruistic. We just are selfless by nature. This is exactly what we do. We give and we give of ourselves, and that I'm speaking for everybody in this room. There are 2 sayings that are popular in education right now. The first one is, we're flying the airplane while we're building it. And I just am shocked when that's used, and you know, the fact that it floats around. And if we really thought about that literally, my goodness. Or if you thought about that when you're visiting a doctor, or even having somebody come out and fix your air conditioning unit, you know. But this is how we're handling the financial cuts and the new Common Core curriculum and, all that continues to shift and change in education. It's tough. And to even put our children in this place, to educate our kids with that philosophy or that analogy being used is shocking. So we want to use this time just to build that aircraft so we're all safe, and so that when I face my community or my students, and especially the parents that I relate with, I want to be able to know that I've had the time to do my best job. It's demoralizing to have to face the crowd and know that I'm giving anything less than my best, but without the time to plan and to meet and to collaborate and to share the synergy that's in our room. I mean, let's face it, in education, we're the only ones that get our master's degree, and our student loans outweigh the pay increase. This is not, this is a real issue. So have we switched the slide here too? Let's see. We want to use this, obviously, for our PLCs, just so we have this time to collaborate, so that we can find the resources that are valuable and differentiate for our students' needs, so we can create these common formative assessments. I'm sorry, did I goof? Thank you. That are so, it's imperative. Teaching is so much more than just the delivery of instruction. We want to have this vertical articulation and horizontal articulation that just really is non-existent unless we are fortunate enough to schedule in maybe one day of it a year. This would also be a cost-saving move for the district, because we can meet and have our district curriculum meetings during this time without having to pull subs and take days off. So I will leave with the second quote that's floating around education right now, and I saw it just a couple weeks ago when I was at the curriculum meeting here at the district office, and it was on a banner up in that room that said, "The answer is in the room." Do you believe that? I believe that, but I think we need to have the time to uncover that and to work together and to prove that to our students, to our administrators, and to our community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maren Cola Ken. Thank you so much for your time. So this particular slide shows how the prep period allotments have changed in the last 10 years or so. I started working at Coronado at, in 2006, and my first year teaching there, I was teaching first grade, and our team would literally spend one prep every single week planning together for the following week. It was an amazing use of our time. I learned so much teaching, working with teachers like Kristen Rayburn, like Vicki Kane, like Michelle Berkshire, like Rachel Deedy, that I never would have picked up on my own. We discussed specific students and how to help them. We discussed specific lessons and how to make them more engaging. And it was, without a doubt, the most quality time I spent the entire week preparing for my students. And unfortunately, with the 135 minutes we're going to have next year and the 180 minutes that we have this year, the idea of an entire team being able to get together and plan together really isn't a realistic proposition. So on a day-to-day basis in my prep, I'm kind of faced with a scary multiple choice quiz where I look up at the clock and I realize I have 15 minutes left. So do I A, spend time putting together a quality assignment for the students who's going to be absent for the next 2 days? Do I B, phone call a parent whose student has finally gotten 100% on that test that they were trying so hard on, and that parent needs to hear that encouragement? Or do I C, update my webpage with quality resources that my students can use to help them prepare for the next test? And I can only do one of those in the time that I have left. I'm not complaining. These are things that I want to do. These are things that I need to do. And I am not the exception. All of the teachers that I work with feel the same way. They all want to be the best teacher that they can be. One way that I've started trying to remedy the situation for myself is I work through my lunch period 2 or 3 days a week. Again, I am not the exception. I teach 6th grade at Coronado Elementary, and on the days where I do eat lunch, I will poke my head into 3 different classrooms and ask, hey, are you guys eating lunch today? Most often the answer is no. Miss Miller has her salad by her computer and she's eating while she's working. Mr. Hilliard is meeting with our special ed teacher to go over differentiation strategies, and our long-term sub, Mrs. Sears, is meeting with a student. And one of the concerns is that we're going to be having lunch duty added onto our plate for next year, so there are going to be some days I can't work through my lunch because I'm going to be in the cafeteria. We got feedback from over 64 teachers from multiple schools asking them what would be the one thing that would help them to be better teachers next year. And the overwhelming response was more prep time, more than new technology, more than new textbooks, more than smaller class sizes even, more than professional development and extra training. It was more time to plan. Next year, looking at the 135 minutes that we'll have at least 2 days a week when I face that scary multiple choice quiz, my answer is going to be D. I get to do none of the above because I don't have prep today. So this extra prep time every Wednesday would be an absolute gift that you could give to us. Thank you for your time.
My name's Erin Pillsbury. I teach kindergarten at Santan. I wanted to look at these are all our duties that are required of us each day. And I wanted to put it in perspective. Our contract starts at 7:30 and we're done at 3:30, but our duty bells ring at 7:42. So if you come in at 7:30 and you have to be out at duty at 7:42, our morning time is not really considered a prep. Also, one of our biggest duties is communicating with parents, and that's not even on here. And that's usually before school. Lunchtime, thank goodness for email, that does help a little bit, but we have a lot of impromptu and surprise meetings after school that happen all the time. And also another one that I wanted to add was the IPT coordinator, because I am that at Santan, and that takes every Thursday for probably an hour and a half after school, and sometimes before school other days, because we just can't fit the whole process in. So that Wednesday, early release every day, or every Wednesday would help me with IPTs too, to touch base with parents, coordinate meetings, because I have to set all those up, and just give us extra time to do all that stuff we're lacking throughout the day.
Good evening. I had the great good fortune this year to work with all grade levels at Centennial, and I have lots of friends at other schools, and I hear the same things. We're coming in at 6:30. We're coming in at 7 to have a meeting before school. We're staying late. It's Thursday. We plan on Thursdays. Let's order a pizza. We meet over the summers. We do all kinds of things to prep and plan for our students. The truth of the matter is they don't do that during instructional time. Teachers don't grade papers. We don't plan lessons while there are students in the room. We can't. Our focus is on students. And one of the things that I found most interesting that I did not know until we started looking at this is the Crosscat special ed team does not get a prep at all, not one during the day. They have various grade levels. Those students leave at different times. They're never given the opportunity for a prep, ever. And so having the opportunity to have a couple hours on a Wednesday, PD could be consistent. We could meet once a week and discuss things that we can do in ongoing long term. I wanted to show you the next slide. This one is kind of the killer for me. We teach 10,440 extra minutes per year. That is a long time, roughly the equivalent of 7 1/4 days, which we could take a cruise to Europe. That is a very long time. That's 21 instructional days. And in the end, we can look at it and say the Apollo spacecraft took 3 days to get to the moon. So when we say that Higley teachers go to the moon and back, we literally do every year, just in instructional extra time. So we're very fortunate that we have that time to spend with the kids, but we're spending a lot of off-contract family time, weekends, evenings, ridiculously early mornings, to plan and prep. And we just are asking for the same amount of prep that we had 5 years ago so that we can continue to improve and keep this the #1 district. Thank you.
So currently, we have an elementary school day that starts at 8:10 with the kids and goes to 3:05. We have early release days that are 6 times a year, and we release at 12:50. Our proposal is that every Wednesday we're released at 1 o'clock, and that provides us a consistent schedule and allows transportation to be able to get where they need to go and to not interfere with the middle school and high school schedules.
Thanks for allowing us to talk with you this evening about an important topic. The next slide that you have here showcases a little bit about Kids Club. Not only were we talking with Transportation Department, but we also ended up speaking with Kids Club as well, saying what would be our options. And our options are simply the fact that they would be available to open their Kids Club doors on all of our sites at the proposed time of 1 o'clock. The next slide is an important one that we're going to look at right now, and this talks about a little bit of what we look like compared to some of our neighboring districts here in the East Valley and some of them closer to Phoenix as well. Right now in HUSD, we have professional development days. We begin at 12:50, and they go until the contracted hour of 3:30. This happens 6 times a year, and we use those for professional development and PLCs. In the Gilbert Unified School District, they do have an early release once per week, and this is an hour long, and they use it for similar pieces that we're using it for as well. In the Kyrene Unified School District, they also have an early release of 1 time per week, and this is a 2-hour time period, and they use this for PD, professional learning communities, and planning. When I talk about professional learning communities, essentially that is when our teachers, all of them in kinder, all of them in first, all of them in second and third and fourth and fifth, they meet together as a team, and they look not only, we ask our teachers to not only look at your 28, 30 students in class, we ask them to create their resources, use their resources together as a group of 4 or 5, and those 135 students are all of yours. And that means that you are hitting not only your high and your mediums, but collectively all of you might have essentially 50 years of experience. Use all of that experience. But it takes time when we say I need you to not only plan every week, but now I need you to meet for a PLC and really make sure all 135 are being addressed. That's what PLC means, and I want you to have an understanding of that. In Mesa, they also have an early release once per week for 30 minutes, and they also then have an early release day once per quarter as well. I'm sorry, that's not a day, that's an early release that goes for a longer time period. In the Scottsdale Unified School District, they as well have an early release once per day. This is for 2 hours and 15 minutes. It says site-based because there are some designated things, but it is up to each individual site to decide what professional development they're going to use, or what will they be doing collectively as a staff that's good for their particular site. In Tempe, they also have an early release once per week for 1 hour and 55 minutes. In Queen Creek, they have 1 to 2 early releases of 2.5 hours. And in Chandler, they have additional non-student days provided to professional development throughout the year. And those are full days. So the only folks up there who are not giving their teachers a chunk of time every single week for an hour and a half or 2 hours is us. There's a challenge with this. Our job is really to be boots on the ground for you and trust that we're going to be able to share exactly what's going on in our schools, and that way you'll have the good information to make some good decisions for our teachers. And we've been hearing about this, especially this year, off and on. I'm going to tell you a little story about a teacher. Her name is Shauna Stingle. You might recognize her name because she was our Teacher of the Year for Chaparral. I sat at a table with her and Kim Anderson and her husband, and we celebrated her. We had a table and a half full of Chaparral teachers. Well, she's not going to be with us next year. She ended up in January getting another position. And when I sat down and talked with her, because she was very open and very honest and kind, like our teachers are, and she says, I can go and make the same amount of money, and I will work 40 minutes less every single day. Now you compound that for the week, for the month. That's a quality of life scenario. And I share that with you because I think you might remember her last year, and you saw the video about how dynamic she was, and this is a travesty on some level as far as we've got to be able to take care of folks. And that's why these 4 teachers are here. That's why this room is filled with teachers behind us as well. Finally, the last piece that we have here is that our student anchors for you, for our district, for how we run things, really, it's the way we work here in this district is to be student-focused and forward-thinking and value our people. We trust you to make good decisions that allow us to continue to give a higher level of education that really all of us have come to expect in this district, and we are happy to do it. We are just asking that you find a way, if not through money, through time, which is something we can control, you find a way that allows us to keep doing that. And I trust that we'll make a good decision. And I'd also say don't hesitate to ask us questions. We'd be happy to share. You know, we're passionate about this. Us supporting teachers is how we support our students. But thank you so much for listening to us tonight. And thanks for everyone who came tonight, too. Thanks.
So whoever wants to answer them. So the proposal's just for elementary, correct? And as far as the busing, so they would have enough time to be back to hit the high schools, correct? If at 1 and pick up high schools by 2? Or are...
Yes, we've already checked with Josh Crosby, and that's the window of time that we could be able to get the buses back and forth to the different routes.
And then I'm glad you brought up the crosscats. I want to make sure our crosscat teachers have preps, even if they're in the junior high or high school too. But the minutes, I was looking at that one slide, the extra minutes per year. So is it every Wednesday if we had the 2 hours early out? You're saying that just adds up to the 4,500 minutes?
Oh, yeah. That's the total number of minutes that we
That's
could
with
use
the
in a
2
year.
hour out. Okay. And I want to tell you, those PLCs I know are powerful. I have sat in a couple, I think one was on your campus or a couple campuses, and those are powerful meetings. And I have been in there and have heard the direct attention given to specific students. And knowing that teachers are talking about my children or children in the community and how much, I know how much time is devoted to those and how important those meetings are too. And make sure that those would consistently happen instead of them happening on their lunch or prep. They would happen. Would you schedule those on those Wednesdays specifically?
There's several different things that we would be doing on that, but number one is to have additional PLC time for teachers to get together and actually talk about their curriculum and talk about students so that we can get everybody to mastery. The other thing is we've also started in the last couple of years sister school kind of relationships where we do professional development across schools, and so we have some greater systemic ways to get the information across the whole district. And then we have other times when we're providing thought that goes for the entire district. So all 8 of the schools get together and we talk about the same topics, and we have similar trainings with one another.
You mentioned cost savings with substitutes not having, I guess, people come to the district for PD. What's the mindset there? Is that a realistic thing?
It's actually a professional curriculum. So every team has a curriculum lead that is associated at the district office, and the district office and our coaching, our teaching and learning department ends up providing a substitute to allow those folks to come to the district office, and all of the 3rd grade teachers across the entire district get to meet and discuss so that we're being consistent among our campuses and up to date with a lot of things. But that's a cost. So it is realistic for us, as we've talked in our administrative meetings, for that to be hopefully honed into those particular Wednesdays if we are given that time. I also wanted to clarify, just on that, you had asked specifically about the extra minutes in the K-6 day. We currently have 750 minutes that we are using. The 4,500 minutes is if we were to have every Wednesday, then we would have those 4,500 minutes. It would only be extra that amount of minutes. Right now we're at 10,440 minutes extra in our K-6 days in this district. So we would still be very much over, but it would be a much more realistic number.
And for clarification, maybe our K-6s are extra minutes because we were on a K-8 model.
That is true. However, please also note that we're not the only district that has a longer K-6 day. And when you look at Alhambra and you go back to when they made the vast improvements in mathematics and reading, it was because they lengthened the school day by 30 minutes in order to allow for extra teaching of mathematics and reading. So school districts do have longer elementary days. That is not an unusual practice. We did not reverse our clock when we moved back to a K-6 model. particularly because we felt there was so much to teach, because the curriculum has also increased over time and teachers have a hard time getting all of it in now. So we don't want you to think that we want to reduce our time. We just want teachers to work together and continue to work smarter.
And that's actually a very good point, that as the Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards are, our teachers are working and talking and growing, but they absolutely need that time in order to consistently do that. So.
I think one thing that, having come from another district, one of the strengths of our district is that we have a coordinated and aligned professional development, and that just rolls out into everything that we do. So when we have the curriculum meetings with the grade level specialists, and they have an opportunity to look at the curriculum together, we are talking the same vocabulary. We're talking about the same strategies, and we're making sure that there's fidelity and there's consistency in the way that we're implementing these things. So we're really working towards not just one and done kind of professional development. Our PLCs are where, as professionals, they get together and they really grind it out. Why isn't this strategy working, or why is this strategy working? And if it's working, we need to repeat it. And so it's that science and art that we're bringing together and giving them opportunities to challenge one another and to spur each other on to that excellence that we expect and have had in this district over the years.
This is a great program that you're presenting us this evening. I was just curious, was there ever a discussion with the secondary program to be off at the same time so you could have collaboration with the elementary and secondary? Was there any discussion in reference to that, to have district-wide off in the afternoon?
May I answer that one?
Okay.
There is a significant increase of the minutes of the day when you move to middle school and high school. The high school has the highest minutes of the day, and it is difficult, even within the current schedule that we have, to have any early release and still meet the minutes of the day under the state statute. So we have to look at secondary as a different way of working together. The larger you get as a school, the more common a prep period can be for, say, all algebra teachers or all geometry teachers at our size. That does not happen. But it is very difficult, unless we were to extend the school day at the secondary level, to actually create a model that the elementary are asking for, because we are nip and tuck in minutes right now.
I have a couple questions as well.
Back to this prep period allotment, is that we did, before 2009, have a 45-minute prep period for everybody 5 times a week. And then after 2009, it dropped to 4, and now we're looking at 3 times a week. And so that's a significant drop in the amount of time that teachers can get together when they're still fresh and when they're motivated and they have their tools available to them. And they could even maybe get a snack.
Need those teachers. Do we know how many, or explore different bus options? For instance, similar to the Mesa schedule, if we reduced our elementary day by 30 minutes a day, so the teachers can have this time every day instead of trying to cram it in once a week, because I know things are going to take up that time. Staff meetings are going to be moved to those times. Other things, your impromptu meetings that come up, you said, after school, things like that are going to end up taking up this time, and when they only have one day to get it done, and then they're back to not eating and everything else. I'd hate to think our teachers are only eating once a week because we get out early once a week. So, I mean, have we looked at doing a similar schedule as Mesa to reduce that time for their school day, but every day? Has anyone looked into the bus schedule there? Can we...
Mrs. Reese, we did look at that, and one of the issues we're running into is the way our bus schedule runs multiple routes for elementary, middle, and high school. We actually looked at, could we even do a shorter amount of time just on the Wednesday, and I know you're asking for other days, but the problem we have is with the number of buses we have, the number of drivers we have, and needing to do those triple routes, we cannot release later than 1:10 on any given day in order to make those other routes.
I'm thinking more 2:35.
We couldn't do that and have the high school and middle school kids be able to get on a bus.
Well, it wouldn't affect the middle school because they're in school. They don't have the early release.
But the bus routes do.
The elementary gets out before middle school anyway. this would just be backing up the elementary. I can see where it would run into the high school, but not the middle school. That's why I was wondering, can those high school routes, they get out at 2:20, that the high school for Williamsfield that drops off in Coronado, can those buses come right after their drop-off into Coronado? And
well, Mr. Crosby would have to answer some of the specific questions, but the question we asked was, what is the latest in the afternoon that we could do an early dismissal earlier than what we do now? And the answer was 1:10.
okay, well, perhaps we can try and get clarification for Mr. Crosby, because it would be similar to an early release, but it would be after the high school, not before the high school. So maybe he can get clarification for that on how quickly we can get those routes from the high school to the elementary schools and allow our teachers. I agree, this prep time is so important, and the cross-cat kids and those teachers, they don't have any time. They have no prep time. They're with their students all the time. They're with their students at lunch. So some relief would be great for cross-cat as well as everybody. They need that prep time, and we know that's what makes us a strong district. So perhaps looking at some different alternatives.
I appreciate that idea. I will say something that I've heard talking to a lot of staff. I love the idea of half an hour every day, but the truth is the 2-hour block would be much more effective for us to use for PLCs and PD. Just to have that consistently every Wednesday, we would use that time for the specific purpose.
Well, we
of
would
planning
still
and
have our
prep.
PD early release once a month, I'm assuming. The last Wednesday of every month is what?
The other piece you need to calculate, you have 10,000 minutes, approximately 10,400 minutes. 180 days, a reduction of 30 minutes is significantly more than 10,000. So you have to calculate the actual minutes in the day as well, and then look at the holiday. So we'd have to calculate that. So yeah, we could come back and look at it. We could come back and look at the bus. There's lots of things we can dig into, but that is a minutes issue. I think you would then be short.
Just a couple questions. So I like the proposal, and I know firsthand how, integration and cohesive teams requires time together, and it can be very powerful. Having an integrated system, particularly in my world with hospitals, it takes a lot of time and effort to bring people together. One important thing to consider, though, and I would like to see how, so there's a benefit, clearly benefit from doing this, but how do we measure that benefit? Would there be ways to tie some results from having this time and produce some sort of outcome that we could measure? So it could be, and it could be anything. It could be, we have better integration with the curriculum, and we've measured that in some way. We can look at teacher satisfaction. We can look at all kinds of different things to try to measure. We could look at individual professional development. Do teachers progress in their certifications and that sort of thing using that time? So I think it would be good to, it's important to measure any program to see if you're really reaping the benefits that were planned.
One of the things with the new Arizona state standards is that they have notched up the requirements and the depth of thinking and knowledge that we require of kids. And so we're trying to find innovative ways to integrate the informational text and using our reading strategies and writing strategies and oral presentation. So there's all these kind of things that are layered on top of each other. One strategy is to create integrated thematic units. And the other thing that we've talked about over the years now is a 4-point scale. That a 3 level is meets. That we really need more time as teachers to be able to rethink, how do we get that 4 level achievement? How do we get them to excelling? How do we get them out of the grade level? How do we get them to think more creatively? Teachers do not have the time right now to be able to get past that meets level, and I'm sure some of you do. And we have breached that a little bit, but we need quality time to be able to create quality kind of activities and instructional pieces that will challenge kids in new and creative ways to help us get there. The other thing, I want to emphasize that we're looking for a quality chunk of time so that once we sit down and we get the juices going and we give people opportunities to think deeply about their work, we want them to be able to complete that, not kind of get it started in 30 minutes, and then, you know, run outside, go do your duty, then run back in, and then I talk to them 5 minutes about something, and then like, okay, and then we like only have 20 minutes left. Well, we want quality time to be able to dig deep.
It's a great point. Actually, there's literature to support that focus time requires a minimum of 90 minutes.
There we go.
Not for kids, maybe. I don't know.
No, that's adults, right?
And you said you talked to Kids Club. Do we know, because obviously this is an impact on families. There's a financial impact on families. They have to find care. They won't have their older siblings there to help facilitate any care because the other schools don't have this early release. It's only elementary. So for younger kids, if they don't currently have child care, they need to get child care for one time a week, which is difficult. And we got information on Kids Club that, you know, they would be available. What about our cross-cat kids? Kids Club currently doesn't take them. Where do they go? Who makes arrangements?
They do. And
they don't take all of them. I know there are certain ones that they don't take. I know that. So that they can't care for them. So, I mean, where do they go? Do we expect those parents to take time off of work once a week?
I think there may be special considerations, of course. You know, any broad-based program, there's always folks that don't fit tightly and neatly into it. So I think we would just need to figure out who the special cases would be and have something available for them in some fashion.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, if they can provide those services, we cannot provide them after school right now in our Kids Club program. So when they may not need that right now because their parents are able to make that time of when they get out of school, but getting out once a week, I'm not letting my employees go once a week because their kids get out of school early, you know, so there's other issues there that we have to look at everybody.
Yep. And Ms. Reese, you're bringing lots of issues. I just wanted to say, I quickly ran the minutes. I would want to do a more thorough research of it. It might fit within that 30-minute might fit within the 10. So I think you've brought some points that we need to just do a little deeper dig into, take a look at it. I mean, we certainly will. We'll be happy to run all those figures, and we'll talk with Josh and other pieces. I don't think anybody here doesn't agree that teachers need more professional development.
Absolutely.
I think we all agree with that. I hear the board saying, yeah, and we think it's valuable, and we know the benefactors are the children. We get it. But to look through every one of the avenues, because one thing we never want to do is make a change without analyzing all of the pieces and making sure all kids are taken care of, and that those questions that Ms. Reese is asking are questions parents will ask, so we might as well get a lot of answers out here before we make any major decision. So I think that we really appreciate the fact that you're looking into this and peeling back the onion a little bit and saying, have you considered, and certainly I know that Dr. Thomason will jump back in on this. I should stop interjecting for next year, shouldn't I? I should just pass the mic.
Dr. Birdwell, Dr. Thomason, generally speaking, I like the proposal. I think we do have to get more prep time for teachers. I greatly appreciate the feedback firsthand from teachers. Immensely important in our decision-making process. I also, to Mr. Little's point and Dr. Wong's point, I appreciate the commentary that you kind of have to get into your groove. When you have a PLC or when you have a planning meeting like that, it's not something that you can get in and out of in just a few minutes. My one concern, and I believe it to be a legitimate concern, is that this time, because it's once a week, gets eaten up by other functions. Gets eaten up by staff meetings, gets eaten up by impromptu, hey, we need to talk about X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. And if we're going to be having a 2-hour block that's dedicated for teachers to prep, that's phenomenal. But we need to make sure, and Dr. Thomas and Dr. Burrow, I'd appreciate if we could bring back, whether it's a regulation, whether it's a policy, something that helps us ensure that this time stays dedicated for teachers and PLCs to be able to plan for students.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're kind of getting at my point towards, you know, can we measure some sort of, there's a planned benefit, can we measure that we reap the benefit?
Yeah, and I think the outcome point that you made is a good one, and I think we do need to figure, you know, we need our staff to figure out a way to do that. I think mine is just a little bit more on safeguarding, rather than yours is a little bit more proactive, right? It's saying let's shoot for something so that we know what we're getting. Mine is saying let's safeguard so that we ensure that the time stays for what it's dedicated for.
And I'm sorry that we were sidebarring your number here, but we absolutely, both of us agree on that. It's both pieces. It's assuring that the time is used in an appropriate manner, and it's making sure that the time is not interfered with and is sacred to the process that we, or the board, if the board approves this, we need to say if the board approves it for teams to get together, for PLCs to get together, then it is not interfered in. That is what truly happens. And then a documentation that says, okay, are we measuring the effectiveness of that time? Are we seeing a growth in the development of curriculum? Are we measuring then the outcomes and the interventions that are then being created for students? And that's something that I know our elementary schools have been experts at. So the great part about anything that I've ever seen come out of elementaries is they are always looking at the outcome. They are amazing at their documentation process. So there's not a doubt in my mind that if we went to this type of model in elementary, that both of those elements could be addressed in it. But I cannot concur enough. If you are willing to give up this kind of time for teachers, we need to make sure that it is sacredly protected for that purpose and not interfered with.
Thank you. If there's any other questions or concerns that the board can email those this week, and we really do appreciate your time. And we're not usually up here for work studies, so that is a little bit more intimidating. We're usually down on the floor back there, so we appreciate you coming before us in this setting, and we appreciate you all for being here. We will take a small break. I think we will transition. There may be a lot of parents or students coming in for awards, and we will go ahead. We'll start in maybe like
Congratulations, you guys. Amazing. It's your high school.
Next, I have the great pleasure of recognizing our district art show winners. And we have a PowerPoint that follows along. I'm going to start first with our elementary category. Student Jacqueline Brower. The title of her artwork is Panda Bear, and she attends Cortina. Her teacher is Peggy Sturman. Okay, next we have Braden Hatcher from Power Ranch. The title of his artwork is Oki Flowers, and the teacher, Ms. Stephanie Withtovich. Sarah Williams from, yeah, I thought thought they were here. Some are here. Yes. I'm sorry. Sahara Williams. The title of the artwork is Space Landscape, and she is from Centennial. Her teacher is Emily Holgate. Students that are here, please come forward. This is Braden. Next, I'd like to recognize Asia Northern. The title of her artwork is Four Giraffes. She's from Sossaman Middle School, and her teacher is Rachel Coblentz. Next, we have Audrey Luster from Cooley Middle School, teacher Patricia Pertruzzi. The title of her artwork is Owl Wire Hanger. Next, Maren Escobar from Sossaman Middle School, teacher Rachel Coblentz. The title of her piece is The Little Mouse. Congratulations again. Moving on to high school. Kylie Strickland from Williamsfield High School, teacher Devin Adams. The title is Freckles. Next is a self-portrait, Serena Liu, Williamsfield High School, teacher Barbara Gomez. She is not here. Next, Dana Camberg from Higley High School, an art piece titled Little Boy Green, teacher Jennifer Fraley. Her piece was used as actually part of her AP art portfolio, so that's why it's not with us tonight. Okay, moving on to overall, our last three pieces, overall best in show. First of all, a piece titled Bird Bath, Cortina student Connor Drossett, a teacher Peggy Sturman. I think we're going to go back. Jacqueline Brower, I understand that you're here and we missed you earlier. Are you here now? Jackie? No? Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were. Okay. Next, also overall best in show, Rachel Liu. That's a self-portrait. She's at Sossaman. Her teacher is Rachel Coblentz. And finally tonight, overall best in show, an underwater self-portrait, Madison Delaney, Williamsfield High School, teacher Barbara Gomez. Very, very talented. Did you have to have an underwater camera for that? Thank you. Those are all of our winners for this year. Now, their artwork will stay on display in the district office for 1 year. Some have chosen to sell them to the district to be part of our permanent collections. Others, they're just on a 1 year loan. Thank you.
Good evening, President Whitener, governing board members. We've had loads of fun this year as we've recognized our points of pride from our schools and our departments each month during a board meeting. We'll be concluding that this evening with our final school and our final department. And since this is our last evening, I really want to just give a big shout out to the brainchild behind this wonderful awards program, Michelle Reese, our public information officer. If you know Michelle, you know that she is always looking for the good and the positive and the various ways that we can celebrate in our school district, and she did a great job with picking out this way. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce Debbie Ibarra. She's our principal of Centennial Elementary School, and she will be presenting her points of pride.
Good evening. It is my honor tonight to be able to acknowledge we have 4, but only 3 of them were able to attend tonight. And our very first person that we are going to announce, who is our classified employee of the month and represents us year long, and who actually has been with me for the entire 6 years, and that's Miss Rosa Sandoval. If you will please come up. We adore this woman. What we'd like to say about Rosa is Rosa spoils us tremendously. She has brought us tamales, and they are so amazing. She also has brought us, and I know there's a name for them because I have to tell you, my father-in-law was very ill and he was in the hospital, and Rosa made these, they're like tortillas, but they had cinnamon all over them. And when I took him in to go see my father-in-law, he started crying, and he said they reminded him of when he was a child. And so it really meant a lot to us as a family. So, Rosa, we love you. And I have to tell you, because my last name is Ibarra, but my Spanish is about this good. And so I wrote on her card in Spanish, so I hope I did it correct. So thank you very much. Our next person who was unable to attend, she is actually out of state, and that goes to our PTO president, and that is our volunteer of the month. And we'd like to say we could not do this without our PTO and our parents. We really know what the support is and how they believe in everything we are doing. And that goes to Miss Kim Anderson, so I would like to acknowledge her tonight. Now, this next lady, I started counting about how many years I have known her. And for 15 years in my heart, I have had the privilege of having Holly Matroni as being on the side of where I work. She came to Gilbert with me, and the way that we met was, I have to tell you, we had a carnival. And she came over and I said, we're in a carnival. She goes, how do I know who you are? And I said, I'll be dressed like a clown. And so she seriously sat there and had me interview her in my clown costume, and I knew in a minute, because she accepted that she needed to be part of us over at our previous school. We got to bring her over to us with Higley, and she is going to be leaving us this year. She has decided that she is going to create her business that she has. She is incredibly artistic and talented, and I wish I had a bit of that, which I have none. And I will miss her tremendously, along with our entire staff, because she is the heart of Centennial. She truly is. And Holly, don't cry. Come on up. I love you. And our last point of pride that we get to give out, this was a tough one because we have over 908 students at Centennial, and we got to select one student. This young lady is amazing. We have our special needs students at our school, and I have never, ever seen such a young lady so positive, working with them every day and being their support team. It was fortunate enough to hear from her mom that Natalie is going to be a teacher, which is amazing for us because it really true shows that we are passing on the torch to an incredible young lady. So it honors me to be able to introduce our Student of the Month. It goes to Natalie Montenegro.
I'd like to introduce Jennifer Kaiser from our Community Education Department, and she's going to be acknowledging the point of pride from the Community Education Department this evening.
Well, I'm very excited to introduce our Points of Pride winner because she is one of our Kids Club site leads at the Cortina site. Julie Minahan, will you come on up, please? There you are. I keep looking for her out in the crowd. She's right here. We're so proud of her because she has established a great program, a Kids Club program, which is the before and after school, out of school time program, at Cortina. And she really has, I want to say, like a well-oiled machine. She's done a wonderful job. She really takes the learning that's going on during the day and continues it on in her program. So we're very proud of her. We're very sad because this is her last year with us. She's going to have her second child, and so she's decided to stay at home. But Cortina will not, she will be missed at Cortina, that's for sure. But it won't be the same without her. Is that her word?
For our next recognition, I'd like to call up April Porter, teacher at Williamsfield High School, to help me with this one.
All right, well, Amanda Alibrandi. There she is. Look at she's so pretty. All right, well, I am honored to introduce Miss Amanda Alibrandi this evening. I'm going to cry because I'm pretty. She's been an incredible asset to Williamsfield and our DECA program. She's a shining example of what a student can do when they take advantage of their courses and the clubs that are provided on campus. And she has, I mean, this is what I hope my own daughters grow up to be. Amanda's teacher, I've been Amanda's teacher and advisor, and it's given me the special opportunity to be her cheerleader. She came to me, well, I came to her actually 3 years ago, and she has been a part of DECA for all 4 years at Williamsfield. Her sophomore year, she was the co-president of DECA. She also that year became a part of the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Program. Her junior year, she was our DECA president, and then her senior year, she went on to become the Arizona DECA president. So she was over 8,000 DECA students in Arizona. This is why she wears that jacket so well. She served on 2 national DECA campaign teams where both times her team took the candidate on to win the national campaign. And she this year has sat on the Hobie board as a student representative. Okay, now Amanda's not just all DECA. Amanda's really smart. She takes a lot of hard classes. And we knew that she was going to get scholarships, but we were really excited to learn that she has been given the prestigious Arizona State University Leadership Scholarship this year. This is only offered to 25 students to take part in their 4-year program. It means that she has a full ride to ASU's W.P. Carey School of Business, which she's already been accepted to the School of Business this coming fall. I'm going to miss you, Amanda. You're more than a student, and I'm proud of you, and I can't wait till I get to visit with you and you share with me what you choose to do with your very bright future. Go, Amanda.
And our last recognition tonight is Carrie Matthews here. Oh, okay. We're going to wait on this one.
We are.
Okay. We will wait then.
We apologize she could not be here, and it is such an important award that I don't want to miss the opportunity to give her the same moment that we gave Amanda, and so we're going to wait until next board meeting, even though school has ended. Let me just say this. Number one, the art awards, amazing talent in our district, but serving at a state level in DECA is amazing opportunity, and you've set the bar. And you know what a night to come, because there's a whole lot of Williamsfield High School fans here, and I know you got a little extra pride going on out there for the Williamsfield team. So thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a 2-minute recess. If there are any students or teachers that need to, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you coming tonight, and I know there's lots of awards and recognitions that have been going on, and we appreciate and are very excited. It is a busy time of year, so thank you for all being here tonight. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. 2.0, we have roll call.
Let the minutes show that all board members are present.
Thank you. We have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And I can't believe I'm doing this again. For 6 months now, or almost six meetings, we've had to dedicate our moment of silence to a student who has passed. And please remember the Bergen family of Clara of Coronado. And I know our district has been through some very challenging times, and so please keep those things in perspective. And I cannot believe I am here, and as a board, we are doing this again. So please remember that family in your thoughts. I will go ahead and move that we approve tonight's agenda with the exception of moving 9.4, approve early release proposal, to next board meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Dr. Birdwell, Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Weiner, Governing Board, community. It is the 90 days of May, and by golly, it's been the 90 days of May. Let me start by saying that as of a week ago, we've been running as hard as we possibly can. Students have been working as diligently as they possibly can on preparing to graduate and take finals, but it's been quite busy. I thank you for acknowledging again the family, but let me extend that to the Coronado teachers and the administration over there as well. You've been in our hearts and our prayers, and it's another difficult time for the Higley community. But united we stand in all the issues that we face. The administration reports that we are doing our very best to keep our campuses safe. There have been some incidents. We're dealing with each of those as they come along and following processes and procedures. It is always our intent to first and foremost provide for the safety of children and make sure that those environments are what they should be, and that is a place of learning. And we have had, unfortunately, 2 news stories, and I am saddened to see that we have drawn negative attention to our district from both the Williamsville High School campus and Higley High School campus. We first and foremost respect our environments. We respect the learning environment. We respect the equipment that the taxpayers have paid for, and certainly safety is on our forefront. So we are investigating and looking into those situations and seeing what we can do in the future to help our students understand that we can never agree with any type of vandalism on a campus, and that it's not appropriate, and that we should not interfere with the learning or the teaching that is to occur on those campuses. So we'll be able to give the board a better report after we get through looking at everything. In addition to that, however, we've had some incidents at middle schools, and we've had some incidents at elementary schools, and I will continue to keep the governing board informed of those. But all in all, the campuses are safe, and we are learning from each of these situations and becoming better at how we manage them. So I thank the governing board in that regard. That said, we still have a lot left to do in a short week. So we have a very long list for the governing board, including senior nights that are coming up where there are awards. We have the celebrations of 8th graders moving on to high school and becoming high schoolers. We have high school graduations to celebrate. Our focus right now is on making sure every 8th grader completes the requirements, and every high schooler, particularly seniors, complete the work that needs to be done in order to graduate and enjoy that privilege of walking across the stage. At the district furlough day, unfortunately, is coming up. That is on Friday following both graduations. And so we will have every school closed, and no employee will be present on those days. And that is to save some dollars going into next year's budget cuts. We do have the Memorial Weekend. And then we have another board meeting coming up here at the end of the month, and then we have 2 in June, so we'll need to look at vacation schedules and make sure we'll have a quorum, because in June it gets a little dicey of getting all 5 of you or at least 3 of you together. So at the end of May, I'm going to pass the mic completely to Dr. Thomason, and in June he will run these meetings with you. So I am going to gracefully begin to move into the background. Graduations occur. I will at that moment work from the conference room and actually turn over the office to Dr. Thomason and move myself into a mentor position. Very much looking forward to that. That said, let me just again thank the community and the governing board for the honor to have led this district. And it's been my privilege to have spent 7 years here in such a wonderful community. We have, I'll say it again, we have great kids. We are so fortunate to have the students that we have in our community. We have tremendously supportive parents, and I have been honored and privileged to be a part of the Higley community. So thank you. As this may be my last board meeting, we'll see if I make it at the end of the month or not. But it has been an honor to be here, and I am so looking forward to watching Dr. Thomason take the lead on these issues. So as I said the other day, the next student issue is all yours, my friend. So thank you, Governing Board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any board comments this week? I know there's been lots to go on and share. Ms. Reese.
I just want to say that I attended the freshman and sophomore awards presentation at Williams Field, as well as the juniors. That was on Monday and Tuesday. And I have to say, those teachers and the administration, they put so much time and effort into those awards. The thought and time it takes to decide who to nominate and who those awards are going to. And then these awards are starting, 5:30, 6 o'clock. They did a back-to-back. The teachers are there, the department chairs are there to present these awards. The administration's there. That's obviously long after their day would typically end. They put a lot of time and effort in those, and I just wanted to let them know how much I appreciated that. I enjoyed being there. It was fun to participate with the administration in handing out the awards for honor roll and principals list and the CTE completers, and so that was great. And then I also got to, I will say, enjoy a trip to Disneyland. My feet did not enjoy it so much, with band and choir, and I got to witness the recording that they do, and the conductor for the band was very firm, and he picked a hard piece, but he taught our kids so much in the amount of time that they had with them, and they got to record it, and they played it back. They did a piece from The Lion King, and they matched it up with where that goes in the movie, and you got to see how that happened. And choir got to do, a performance from Mulan, and they got to record it and see it and hear it again with the animation. So they got a lot out of it, and it was an interesting trip. And I realize how old I am and don't sleep so well on a bus anymore, and that my feet hurt. So. But it was great to see, and the kids really enjoyed it. So, thank you.
Thank you, and I should have said thank you to all the board members for coming to the Teacher of the Year awards as well, and how much that meant to our faculty, and having you all there to see the great examples of teachers. And as I said at the Teacher of the Year, and behind each of these teachers is 100 other fantastic teachers that are here in the Higley District.
Mr. Hoffman.
President Whitener. Dr. Birdwell, I appreciate your comments on the Williamsfield situation. It's appropriate that a full investigation happens. It's my understanding that we also have some parents and students who may possibly be here to speak to us tonight, and it's appropriate that parent feedback is incorporated too. And so I greatly respect and appreciate any feedback that they bring as well.
I appreciate you saying that, and rest assured that every email that I have received, I have read them all, and I have put them all in the packet as well. So certainly we did not turn a deaf ear to any input that we received.
I had to say, in my 8+ years of being on the board, I went to the best rivalry game ever between Higley and Williamsfield. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? What is it? Best buddies. Higley and Williamsfield had a best buddy rivalry kickball, and I will tell you, it was the best rivalry game I'd ever been to. Beaming students, peers, helpful, just the friendship and the kindness shown. I hope that will continue as a tradition, and I hope that we get a bigger crowd, a bigger Higley community crowd out there to support them next time. I want to thank you, those who supported that and who put that on, and the peer buddies. It was a very nice, enjoyable game. So thank you to those who put that on. And I know we had volunteers, and we even have aides. Our aides who volunteered to do that, and our teachers from Williamsfield and Higley High. So thank you.
President Whitener.
Mr. Little.
I just wanted to say that attending the Teacher of the Year night was great. Being new to the board, kind of being new to how school districts operate, I was already attracted to the school district as a parent, and it was really great to see the phenomenal work of such great teachers. I kind of wanted to make a point behind the scenes. I talked to Dr. Birdwell how those video montages were put together. I was very impressed that students had put those montages together. So, it's a great district because we have great teachers, and we also have great students, and that comes from great teachers. So I just wanted to thank all the teachers out there. Makes me proud to have my kids in the school district. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we do have our request to speak to the governing board. We value input from our constituents. This time has been set aside for anyone from the audience who wishes to address the board. I have your forms here. Please remember this is not an appropriate venue to evaluate, discuss, criticize, or district personnel. Policy KEB provides a process for complaints about personnel. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS, that's Arizona Revised Statute, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the list of names that are a specific issue, and if you would go ahead and come up to the podium, and that way you're already there and we don't have to have time waiting back and forth. And if there's something you want to add, go ahead and do that. And then I will call the other request to speak to the governing board regarding different agenda items or specific issues. At this time, as Mr. Birdwell and Mr. Hoffman mentioned, Dr. Birdwell, Mr. Hoffman, sorry. We did get all of your emails regarding a specific situation at Williamsfield. We do have all of those. It is not an agenda item, so the board cannot discuss it at this time. And students, as a little lesson here, we can never talk unless we're right here in public. So I know I've had parents ask me too specifically, well, what do the other board members think? You know, we don't talk about that. It's called Arizona's open meeting law. And the only time we can discuss things is if it's on the agenda in a meeting in public. So we will hear your input, and we do limit remarks to 3 minutes. So I will go ahead, and if you hear your name, just come and line up behind the podium, if that's okay. Milton Bugg, Sharice West, Kimberly Flake, David Lynch. Go ahead. Just go ahead and line up behind the podium, if that's okay. Milton Bugg, Sharice West, Kimberly Flake, David Lynch, Landon Norris, Emily Long, Mark, is it Cote or Lote? Cote, Lote? Eric Rode, Michelle Paz. Each person will have your three minutes, but this way just saves time calling you up and waiting for everyone else. All right, Mr. Bugg, thank you.
Doctors, esteemed board, faculty, parents and students, thank you. I am here to support Dr. Wadawa with this situation going on at Williamsfield, and I'm going to do so. I'm going to do so by telling
Hang on, I'm just going to say, hold your applause because that's part of his 3 minutes.
I'm going to do so. Pardon my back, everyone. I'm going to do so by telling a true story. Almost 34 years ago to the day, I was a junior in high school. Don't do the math. I was a student council leader, and we every year at the end of the school year would go on a field trip to Canada, to Toronto, Niagara Falls. I'm from Cleveland, so it was just a quick drive. We leave on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. We get up there, and it's 7 o'clock, and our faculty advisor, Miss Gladys Purnell, told us how wonderful we were as an organization. She'd never had such a great group, and she was going to extend our curfew from midnight to 1. Woo-hoo. We were pretty excited. So me and some buddies, we go down to the main touristy area, and we meet some girls, and I'm not going to tell that part of the story, but suffice it to say, we go tiptoeing in back at 4 a.m. And we thought we were going to tiptoe in and just quietly go to our rooms and wake up the next day as if nothing ever happened. Miss Purnell was up, crying hysterically, hyperventilating. Girls were crying. They thought we were gone. Miss Purnell certainly thought we were over the falls. Police were there taking accounts. When's the last time you saw Milton and his buddies? Needless to say, Miss Purnell read us the riot act, ran up to us and smacked us each in the face once. You could do that back then. And she yelled things that I can't repeat in an open forum, but what she did say was how sad and disappointed she was in us. And when I realized at that moment, I had really, me and my buddies had broken her heart. We took the olive branch that she extended to us in sincere gratitude for her appreciation of us as students, and we pooped on it. And I learned that through the following summer, I exhausted myself trying to repair and reinstall the faith, trust, and confidence that I had built up in her heart and mind to that point. I was successful in doing so. So that senior year, my senior year, although I had faced potential expulsion, faced potential suspension, and was certain I wasn't going to play high school sports or be allowed to participate in any other student activities as a senior, I was able to repair and get back to a leadership role in student council. The next year when we went back to Niagara Falls, the question came up about can we extend the curfew, and Ms. Purnell said no. But then I pulled Ms. Purnell aside and said, that was my mistake. That was my undoing. I'm the one that should be held accountable for that and responsible for it, not anyone else. Thank God for Ms. Purnell. Thank God for the board at that time for my high school that Ms. Purnell did not get any punishment whatsoever. I was the one that made a mistake, me and my buddies. I was the one that was a dumb teenager. That happens sometimes, and I hope that the board can recognize that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ms. West.
Dr. Birdwell, Dr. Thomason, and the board, thank you for allowing us to speak. I, too, am here in support of Dr. Terry Wadawa and the events that took place at Williamsfield. Thank you for reading my lengthy email. I typed very fast, so I know it was a novel, and I appreciate you reading it. Just a couple of things I'd like to ask the board to keep in mind as information starts coming to you in the coming days and weeks about this situation. First of all, there's fortunately a minority few out there who would like to blame Dr. Wadawa for what happened on Friday because she worked with the students to sanction some safe pranks, some harmless pranks on Thursday. For one, I as a parent applaud her for doing that, for working with the students, for recognizing that they are kids that just want to have a little fun and do something memorable their senior year. And I think if you'll look at the facts of the situation as they come before you, you'll see that those things that were sanctioned on Thursday were very harmless and very fun. She handled it very well, and I applaud her for that. Certainly we can't blame her for what happened on Friday. She cannot control an entire senior class. We can only hold her accountable for how she handled it. And we can debate back and forth whether she handled it appropriately or not in allowing some seniors to leave campus. However, I would like to ask you, as the information comes before you in the coming weeks, to look at the whole body of work. And I think if you do so, you will see a very devoted and dedicated principal, a principal who is extremely well liked by the vast majority of teachers, parents, and students. A principal who I'm sure you will hear from some students who works very, very well with students and is very respected by them. I'd also like to ask you to keep in mind that the punishment needs to fit the crime. And so as possible consequences are tossed around, I would ask you to keep that in mind as well. Lastly, I would just like to thank Dr. Wadawa for everything that she has done for our school, and I hope that that continues. She is a fantastic principal. I have been a parent in this district and a substitute teacher for 10 years. I've been through every principal at that high school. They all brought good things to the Williamsville community, and I appreciate the ones that came before her and all that they did. But it is my opinion that when Dr. Terry Wadawa was hired, we finally found the right principal for Williamsville. And I don't think that I am the only parent of Williamsville student that is tired of seeing a new principal every 2 years. Thank you for your time.
Kimberly Flake? Thank you. Go ahead.
So my name is Kimberly Flake, and I am actually new to Higley Schools this year. My son is a freshman at Williamsfield. I have 2 other students that are currently in the Gilbert School District, and our plan was to bring them over next year, one at Williamsfield and one at Cooley. I have to say that Dr. Wadawa was a key part of our impression of what
Williamsfield represents and what the school district represents. She really works well with the students. She's very approachable, which is why the seniors went to her in the first place. She is an example of devotion to the students and a community leader, and she really encourages us as parents and the students to be involved in the community, although that might be a little more on your email plate and voice plate right now. It's what develops our community leaders. It's what creates people to be able to move forward successfully, and I think she's a great example of a community leader, and that you should consider all of those traits when you are working through this issue and investigating, because she's definitely a key part to our decision to move our other kids into the Higley School District. Thank you.
David Lynch.
David Lynch. Madam President, board members, and Dr. Birdwell. This is an odd situation for me because the first time I've ever been to a board meeting where I wasn't getting an award by the board, or that I wasn't supporting my teammates in getting an award. I am a retired teacher from the Mesa Public Schools District. That's an 80 points retired teacher, so I've made it the full run. So I've been involved in education in Arizona for quite some time. I've had 2 students that attended Higley School District schools. My oldest son graduated from Higley in 2008, and my youngest is a senior at Williamsfield this year. He was involved in a senior prank. He was there the night before. He helped Dr. Wadowa clean up some stuff that he said clearly some students got out of hand. He broke my personal curfew, came home a little late. I was on the phone to him at 10 o'clock, wanted to know where he was, and he said, Dad, I'll be there in a few minutes, and I'll explain it all when I get there. And I said, well, okay, what happened? I met him at the door. I said, well, what happened? He said, well, Dr. Wadowa was there, and I took some chalk and was writing on a wall, and she made me clean it off. And I picked up some trash that other kids had kind of strewn around campus, and she was there kind of supervising us to make sure that it didn't get out of hand. I think there's a fine line between supervision and responsibility for sanctioning a prank, because I don't think she sanctioned anything. I think she was supervising. I got to tell you, when she first came here, my son ran home and said, oh my gosh, Dad, they're instituting this program at Williamsfield. You're going to have to stay after school if you don't turn in your homework. And he's an honor student, but he doesn't do his homework all the time, and he makes pretty good grades, though. He got an academic scholarship and he got an athletic scholarship, and he's a great kid. But he was really worried about that because he was wondering what his coach would say if he was telling him that he was in detention instead of on the football field. I got to tell you, he loves Dr. Wadowa. He'd be here tonight, but he's also a prize chef at McDonald's, and he's working tonight. And he's looking forward to graduation. And what she has done at that school in her tenure there is remarkable. Just the teamwork that is building between teachers, the outreach to parents, the willingness of her to discuss openly any event. She is truly a caring and concerned principal who has set a proper environment at Williamsfield. And I would like to echo those thoughts by that previous speaker. I would like to see her continue, because it'd really be nice to have a principal that lasted more than 2 years at Williamsfield. That'd be great. And I want to tell you something. I couldn't support her more, and I think you're going to hear some more from people behind me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Norris.
Good evening to you, Dr. Birdwell, and to you, board members. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to start off by saying that Williamsfield High School has not only been for me a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, learning environment, but it's also its family. And I think that's something that I speak for all of us when I say that Williamsfield High School, it's a family, and we owe such a debt of gratitude of that characteristic of our school to Dr. Wadowa. And I just believe, regarding the events on May 1st, that morning, that was, there's no other way to put it than that's just the fault of the students. It's like people have said, we teenagers, we don't always make the best informed decisions. And we can't put that on the shoulders of someone who basically, gave us an inch, we took a mile. that's on us, and I would be willing to take whatever punishment upon myself, because I admit I was a key student in coordinating the whole thing. But Dr. Wadawa is such an amazing principal. Something she has that I think many principals that I've had in past years, I've been to many schools, lack is presence. I feel like principals a lot of times are behind-the-scenes workers, and of course, for good reasons, they're busy people. But it is so nice to have a principal who you get to see around campus all the time, who will smile at you, greet you, by your own name, when she has hundreds of other students that she could be, dealing with. And I just think it would be such a pity and just a sad thing for any of the students coming into Williamsfield, or the students who will be there next year, because I won't, if they didn't get to have her as a principal, because she just makes the learning environment such an enjoyable experience. She incorporates positivity, positive reinforcement to all the students. Every Tuesday and Friday we have morning announcements, and oftentimes she'll have a little spiel in there where she'll give us a motivational speech for the day to kind of, get ourselves in that right mindset to, learn and, focus and work hard, but, make the best of it and enjoy it while you're doing it. And I just think that's such a special trait that you just don't get with many principals. She's just the perfect mix of, being able to work, but also, being a friend, but a constructive friend. And I just believe that she deserves more than anything to continue being our principal, because those kids deserve a great principal. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily? Miss Long?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, I just want to thank you all for letting us talk. I graduated last year from Williamsfield, and I, as far as I know, was one of the first seniors to collaborate with the principal on making a senior prank, or something that seniors could do to get their prank out of the way and have an enjoyable and safe day. I was actually there Thursday night with the seniors and was with Dr. Wadawa, and as soon as things got out of hand, she was on top of it. She called all the seniors together, asked them to clean it up. She was very specific about the next day, what needed to happen, what she expected, and I definitely think that even with our prank, it was very controlled and there was nothing that really got out of hand, but there were still seniors, as there always is, who you get an inch, you take a mile. That's how it always is, and she did a really, really great job of controlling it last year and this year. I think that under the circumstances, it's really hard to control over 400 students, or, however many people there are, who just want to have fun, and it's the end of the year, and they think that, they're excused to do whatever, and they're not. But she's an amazing principal. I've never been so close to an administrator or a teacher who really made me feel like I could go to them for anything, and really feel like I was heard. And I really think that she deserves her job. I think that she puts the education and the safety first, and she did that on the day of the incident. And I really think that I don't know anyone else who deserves to be a principal of a school and a principal of Williamsfield. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Wadawa is a person and a principal who is beyond reproach. I have never met a more caring hard worker. Her students are her first and seemingly only concern. She's present at every Williamsfield High School event I attend, and at the same time, she is in complete control, yet always available and approachable to students and parents. Not an easy task. Dr. Wadawa carries herself with class, dignity, and grace, and anyone who contradicts this is either foolish, misguided, or misinformed. A school is only as good as its principal, or in our case, as great as its principal. Her importance and influence is immeasurable. We are lucky to have her and are probably the envy of every other high school in Arizona. Wouldn't it be a shame if we lost such a talent from our school by the malfeasance of someone on their way out?
Mr. Rhodey. Is it Rode?
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Eric Rhodey.
I have been involved in the Higley School District for going on 13 years now. I have 2 boys that have went all the way through Higley L and into Williamsfield. One's a junior this year and one is a senior. And I've seen some bad things go on in those 13 years, and I've seen some good things go on. But the best thing that I've seen and experienced is the appearance of Dr. Terry Wadawa at Williamsfield High School. She's invigorated the campus because, as people have mentioned, she's approachable, she's engaging, she cares, she's sincere. These are all things that allow her to lead from the front. And that's exactly what we need as a community and our students need. Young adults need to be led from the front. I manage risk for a living. Basically, I'm a project manager that mitigates risk all the time. I can't do those things if I'm not out front and I don't understand what are the possibilities of things happening. I appreciate as a parent her direction, and I trust her wholeheartedly with my boys and with the direction of the school. And I just want to show my support, and I'm glad to have her as a principal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for letting us speak this evening. My name is Michelle Pose, and I am a proud parent of a Williamsfield student. I stand here today frustrated that I need to defend our outstanding principal against an investigation that I quite frankly think is indefensible. Dr. Wadawa is an amazing, incredible principal who is valued and loved by her students, obviously, by her parents, obviously, by her faculty and the rest of the community. The time that Dr. Wadawa had to spend away from the school, that was punishing my son, who was a student, and the rest of the Black Hawk student body. I am frustrated that those who are truly responsible for this have not had to have any kind of punishment or repercussions. So I just need this board and the people who are doing the investigation to take a minute. Let's realize and remember what we were like when we were students. I know that when I was 17 and 18 years old, I made dumb decisions. My mom, my teachers, my principals, they gave me an inch and I took a mile. What I want to happen now is I want the parents, I want you to clean up your own backyard. You have a problem with this, you don't like the way things that were handled, then you need to speak to your students because they are the ones who are responsible for this, not Dr. Wadawa. She should not burden this responsibility when a parent is unable to parent and take responsibility for their kids at home. I would be completely disappointed and ashamed of this Higley district if for any reason Dr. Wadawa were to lose her job. I started my son over here in Williamsfield in January of 2014. One of the main things that I came over here for was moving him from Hamilton over at Chandler, and I wanted to make sure that I had a principal that I felt like I could trust. Dr. Wadawa, I can trust, and I don't trust my children with many, but I do trust her with her. So keep an open mind and remember what you were like when you were young, and remember the mistakes we made, and don't have it burden Dr. Wadawa and her job as a principal at Williamsfield High School.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for those. We still have a couple public comments. Okay, Grayson Myers.
Hi, I'm Grayson Myers. Should we move this up? Okay.
That's fine.
I'm Grayson Myers, and I'm currently a sophomore at Higley High School. I was part of the last 8th grade graduating class at Centennial, and I just like to show my gratitude for the marquee finally being made. I've been in the Higley district my entire school career, and I take pride in the schools that I go to and that I have an effect on. And I was part of the last student government. I was the VP, and Ben over there, he was the president of it, and we really worked to leave a mark on that school. Our class, we brought the only championship titles for athletics. We brought a lot of academic success, and we were a #1 A-rated school. And we wanted to gift the marquee to the school as a mark for our class, and I'm just appreciative that the money is finally being used after 3 years of sitting.
Thank you. Ben Howell. I like your shirt, buddy.
So I'm excited to be here tonight. I really like to get any opportunity I can to have my voice heard. So I would just like to add upon what Grayson said over there. I was the president of the last 8th grade class at Centennial. We found ourselves really at a special place at a special time where we were doing really well in academics, really well in athletics, and everyone was encouraged by their circumstances. We were empowered. We really felt like we belonged there. So this marquee happening is something that means a lot to me, and that we were a big part of when it was going on. And so I'm excited that it's happening now. So I applaud you guys for supporting us in this, and I look forward to having it built over summer, and hopefully some of you guys will come and take a picture with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Molly Ashton.
Good evening, Governing Board, Dr. Birdwell and Dr. Thomason. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Molly Ashton. I currently have a son attending Santan Elementary, and I just wanted to take a minute to talk about the weekly early release possibility. I can speak to you from the point of view of an educator. I'm a former teacher, as well as the point of view of a parent. I have children currently also in the Gilbert district where we also have a weekly early release day. As a former teacher, I taught in a district where we had an early release every week. And from my point of view, it was extremely beneficial to the teachers as well as the students to have something consistent where we could plan on each week. We would have that extra prep time. Parents could plan that their children were going to be out that one day each week. But it didn't disrupt the school day, as a half day usually disrupts the school day. We just had to shorten each of these subjects just a little bit. So I loved it as a teacher. It was a great time for us and for our students. In addition, as a parent of children also in the Gilbert district, we've been doing the early release weekly for a couple of years. And from my point of view, I love that I know that every single Wednesday they will be out an hour early, that I don't have to think about which day of the month it is, that they're getting out 3 hours early or whatnot. And it's been extremely positive for my kids. I get an extra hour with them each week. And unlike in the Higley district, I never know when the early release day is. And luckily my son is old enough that if I'm not home, he's okay. But if it was my kindergartner, if I wasn't home, she would be a little bit scared. I believe the weekly early release does very little to disrupt the education and the school day, and I think it's a great thing for parents, educators, and students alike. I also believe that if the board chooses to approve the early release, it would be great if we could know that as soon as possible so that we can plan it accordingly in our schedules. Thank you.
Thank you. Miriam Phillips. Gil?
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak, Dr. Tomlinson, Dr. Barwell, and board. My name is Miriam Phillips Gill, and first and foremost, I'm a parent in the district. My daughter attends Higley High, and she's an honor student. She's been part of the gifted program. I just wanted to personally invite each of you to an event tomorrow night at the Higley Performing Arts Center that the district has graciously agreed to sponsor. It's an event on academic pressure. It's a documentary film called The Race to Nowhere. I'm an alumni of Stanford University, so that has allowed me to get volunteers from the Stanford Alumni Association as well as the Ivy League Council. So I have an interesting panel after the film to discuss the topics within the film. It's something that I was concerned with several years ago when I was president of the Higley Gifted Association, and I got a grant through IBM to purchase the film for the district. But I've seen an increasing amount of academic pressure with my child's peers while she has been at Higley High, and I thought this was an important film to show again. So I hope that all of you can attend. I'm really concerned also with the fact that this year Higley High has chosen to only honor underclassmen at their award ceremony who are in the top 5% of their class. So for the freshman class, everybody who was under a 4.57 GPA is not being recognized. I've spoken to Dr. Tomlinson about that, in part because of the way that we calculate ranks in this district. And this is something, this isn't just in this district, this is nationwide. This problem has come up. Lots of school districts have changed the way that they calculate their ranks. And it really saddens me, and my daughter is one of those people. She has a 4.5. She just missed the cutoff. That straight A students are not being recognized by Higley High, whereas at Williamsfield and many other schools throughout this area, they are being recognized. So like I said, Dr. Tomlinson is looking into the issue, and I hope that it can be rectified by Monday when they have their awards night. But I really think we need to create a culture where the academic pressure isn't, the rank isn't emphasized, but the child's interests are recognized, and we have an environment where they can thrive and really not have that intense academic pressure placed on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Gusick.
Madam President, fellow board members, welcome back. Dr. Birdwell, Higley staff, parents, taxpayers, and last but not least, students. My name is Joe Gusick, and I do not reside in your school district, as I always tell you that, but I am a fellow Gilbert resident. First of all, I didn't know I was going to say this tonight, but I'm not sure when I'll be back again. Dr. Birdwell, thank you very much for your years of service. I appreciate the fact that you never didn't expect excellence out of everybody and yourself. From the board, from yourself, from the staff, from the students, from the parents. Gilbert, as a community, is a better place. I know there's no perfect superintendent, and we all have disagreements from time to time with the way somebody does something. But I truly appreciate what you did and what you've done for our community. I thank you for that. As you know, I travel far and wide. I went to some We Are Listening tours, and I found a golden nugget. Senator Lesko got up and spoke in Glendale. She said she heard 2 complaints, and she challenged her boards of the West Valley to help her out with this. A senator, a state representative, asking for feedback. She said the complaints that she heard was, I hear that the funding model isn't working. Don't worry about that one. I'm going to take care of that one. The second one was unfounded mandates affecting teachers. Well, I sent her an email and I said, I think this is an excellent thing for you to do. In fact, I'm going to go and encourage all the East Valley boards to do the same. I ask you, and I ask the staff, to go create a list of all the unfunded mandates, federal, state, local, whatever, which ones are on that table. If they're from the EPA, the Department of Agriculture, I really don't care where they come from. If they impact you and you don't have funding to do it and you can't perform, please share it with her. Because the only way we can start to fix our education system is by actually sharing information with one another. This is a big Jenga game. And I don't want those state representatives to be told the information without the complete information. Because if they pull one of those wrong little pieces out, that whole Jenga tower will fall. So I would greatly appreciate if you would take the time and think about it. There's no time frame to do it in a month or 2. And I told her if she really wants those different school districts to give her feedback, she's going to have to remind them 3 and 4 and 5 times if she really wants the information. But I think she does. And I hope you'll work on that and give her feedback. Thank you.
At this time, that concludes our request to speak to the governing board. Students, Teachers, parents, if you'd like to go and dismiss, or if you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's fine as well, but that concludes our request to speak. Thank you to those who came. We appreciate your comments and concerns, and you can always email the board as well. No, I can't. Okay, students, if you could quietly enter out the lobby, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of our meeting. 7.0, we have consent agenda items. I move that we approve consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.6. Mr. Wojtowicz seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
President Whitener.
Ms. Reese?
I do have one question on the Williams Field band camp trip. I don't know if we have dates yet on when the kids will get their schedules and all that information and their fees. Usually it's 1 day per grade, and then there's kind of an open day. That's right before school starts again, since we start on the 27th. So I didn't know how that interferes with them receiving their schedules and all that.
It's a very good question, and I can't answer that, and I'm not sure that Dr. Wadawa has the answer at this time, but we will ask him to get back to us on it and work around the band. What I've done in the past is, as a principal, if there is a interference, I've held a separate registration for the band kids to make sure they don't miss out.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
President Whitener.
Dr. Nance.
If I may interrupt for just a second, you've just approved a new assistant principal at Santan Elementary School. I would like to introduce Lindsay Reeves. Lindsay is currently the Title I coordinator at the school, and she will be moving into the assistant principal role in the fall. So, Lindsay, if you'd stand and be recognized, congratulations.
Lindsay, do you have anybody here you'd like to introduce as well? Do you have anybody you'd like to introduce as well? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we're at 9.0, action information items, and we have 9.1, an information item on the AZ merit update.
Good evening, President Whitener, members of the board, superintendents and executive directors and the rest. I think I'm waiting on a clicker. So, what's that? The next slide? Oh yeah, next slide please. This is an update for AZ merit testing. As you know, the window for computer-based testing opened on March 30th. And all of our schools were computer-based. We had about a 5.5-week window to get the testing completed. And I wanted to update you on how that went. Except I never know how to use this. Did I go too far? Okay. All right, so what do we know now? If you recall, the State Board of Education didn't even vote on which assessment we would be administering until November, October, ish, and we finally kind of had things rolled out in January, how it was going to look in trainings. And so here's what we know now. The AZ merit test was based on a blueprint that was established by Arizona educators. The first administration of this assessment included items from multiple item banks. And in January, about 90 Arizona teachers across the state got together, reviewed every item on every test that would be given to ensure that they were valid and the measures that we were looking for what our blueprint was. Okay, so in July, the state will be convening to do the standard setting on the assessment, and we may get some kind of data back from that. It would be very raw, maybe some percentile ranks. Not sure if we'll get that yet, but they are looking to start rolling things out in October, November that will be more meaningful than what we get in July. Now, the results will be publicly available on a date that's to be determined, so we are not sure when they'll be made public. We'll have it for our own planning information or purposes to move curriculum along and everything, but we won't be able to publicize it. There will be an embargo. So now, 8F labels, they've been suspended under statute for 3 years, but we still are required to be under federal accountability. So what does that mean? Well, that there will be some kind of accountability next year, and because we get Title I money in the state, we have to be accountable for those funds. All right, so how did it go for us? Well, I want to give a shout out to the IT staff because they worked so hard to pull off some impossible feats, like the middle schools not having computers to take the test on, and refurbishing old laptops and taking laptops, ordering keys, making sure, plugging in every single headphone jack to test to make sure they work. All of that was done, and they really did a great job to ensure that teachers could just focus on administering the test, not troubleshooting technology. So that was great. I heard a lot of anecdotal reports from the site saying that the AIR platform that was used to administer the assessment was very user-friendly and very easy. And teachers and students, I hear, overwhelmingly preferred the online. In fact, here's a case in point. I ordered Braille tests for all of the students requiring Braille per their IEPs. Every single student requested an amendment to their IEP to do it online. They did not want to do it on paper and pencil. And they realized, too, it broadened their access because they can make it even bigger. Also, teachers, I heard, felt less stressed by spreading testing out over the 6 weeks instead of cramming it all in with all that frantic energy. The principals, it's all around them, and all in 3 days, everybody at once. It's overwhelming, and if it's a full moon during testing week, forget it. It is not fun. So it went really well. It was, I just routed all the calls to my phone. It would start ringing at 6 in the morning sometimes. Had high school people, real go-getters, getting their labs set up. They're already running across an issue, and they want it solved. I might not be awake yet, but they want it solved. Let's see. So how about participation? Our participation rates were phenomenal. We usually pride ourselves on getting the 100% tested. Unfortunately, what happens is because the date was March 30th, any kid who left between then and May 8th that we didn't get tested yet because maybe their grade level wasn't testing that day are included in that. So I'll be able to clean that up if need be, if anything happened where we were.
How does that work? If the student took writing with us, but then they left or moved?
Well, that's really fun because then you just transfer the student in Tide to your own school, and then you can see what they've completed. And so we did a few of those, or they transferred from us, and I had schools calling me saying, did they take it? And I'm like, you added them to tide, I can't see. So they had to go check themselves. So this is pretty phenomenal. Centennial probably did have 100%, but there were some kids that I included on their rosters that were late identified to take Ames A. And so they're included in that. I didn't find out till tonight. Okay, any questions on that?
How many kids do you know that were taking Ames A?
I'm sorry?
How many kids do we have still taking Ames A? Do you know a rough estimate?
Usually it's about 1% of the population. I don't think we exceed that. Is Diane here?
No. Okay.
Yeah, it's the self-contained. We can't go over 1%. If we do, they count as not passing. But it's generally about 1% of the population qualifies for. And we're less. Yeah, we're a little less than that. Okay, so what are the challenges ahead? What is passing? We know what passing is on Ames. We don't know yet what it is on AZ Merit. So those are going to be set this summer as well. I've already heard the governor say he does not want a watered-down cut score. He wants it to reflect more aligned with what NAEP shows, and he's already seen the disconnect between what the Ames pass rate was and what NAEP says. And so the likelihood is that passing will likely indicate college and career readiness, and so we're already seeing kind of that. At the state level, we see that wish happening. So did I miss one? Did I accidentally hit that 2 times? All right, no. Oops.
No.
I'm so sorry. Okay. All right, so what I want to talk about now is a transition proficiency gap, and this happens anytime a state changes a test or they modify a cut score in order to simulate a more rigorous test. And so what you see naturally happen is a drop anytime there's a switch to a new test, new standards, whatever it is, or if it's just a simulation of a cut score. And so what we're going to have to figure out, it's not just enough to pass, but what also is going to exceed, because college and career ready, as you know, is going to be pretty high. So if the state does adopt higher expectations, we can expect to see probably about 30% drop, 30 to 40 on average. That's what we've seen in other states. So even students who were approaching the exceeding, they're going to have to work a little harder in the future to make sure that they hit the benchmark that's set if the state adopts higher cut scores. All right, so I'll give you an example. I came across this example and I thought it was perfect. So imagine we were assessing students on their ability to jump. And yesterday we told them, this is all you have to do. You got to jump this high, this far. That's it. Well, now it's different, because it's not only do they have to jump a little higher and a little longer, but now they're going to have to do a hurdle, maybe a pole vault, and we're going to have to determine what's high enough, long enough, and what demonstrates that mastery. Well, not us, but the people that'll be on that committee. In the transition year, there's the drops, as I mentioned, and like I said, where they just changed the scale score cut to simulate rigor, you'll see the same drop. And I'm going to show you what New York did to kind of prepare the community by first simulating rigor by adjusting their cut score the 2 years before they implemented the new standards assessment.
Is it the state board, the Department of Ed, or who determines the cut score?
The Department of Education will be working in there is a committee through the State Board of Education that will be working with the Department of Education and educators across the state to do the standard setting and determine those cut levels. If you recall, when Ames first came around, those first cut scores were set, and they didn't stick until 2004 for no, 2006 was the final setting for reading, I believe, and then math was changed in 2010.
And will they have different cut scores for the paper test too?
No, well, they're not
Like
sure
you know
yet.
that for sure?
They don't know yet.
Oh.
But they have done the equating, and the equating on paper and computer was about a 90 to 95% equating rate, which even the high school aims that's done in the spring and the fall, which is supposed to be the same, almost the same test, was only in a 70% match rate. And so it's already better than what they were using for high schools from spring to fall. Okay, so New York had cut the cut scores, and they had, when they just dropped they increased the cut score, they had a drop in 24%, and then they implemented new standards, and here's what that looked like. Okay, so here was reading. If you see New York there in that transition year, when they first changed it, they went from 77% pass rate to 53. And then when they transitioned to the new standards assessment, they went from 55, which they earned in 2012 because they went slightly up from the 2011, to 31%. But look how different it would have looked had they not done that transition with the cut score. They would have gone from 77% to 31%, which is about 40% difference. Kentucky did a transition to standards, and they went from 74% to 37%, and then Utah also had transition in 2014, and they dropped from 83% to 42% in reading, and then the similar trend happened in math. So, percent passing is going to drop, but that's not a bad thing necessarily, because if we were to leave the pass rates the same, then we're not really doing what we said we were going to do, and that's prepare kids for the future to be college or career ready. And so if the pass rates do drop, that means we do have higher expectations, and we're providing more opportunities for kids in the future because we've challenged them more, and we've better prepared them for the future. And they're going to be able to go out there and make their way. It's very, very important the community knows, and you all know, that the drop does not indicate that teachers, students, or schools are failures. This is going to be a natural transitional drop. It just happens. Let's see. And indications are that the first year you have the drop, but in the next year they go back up. And they go back up, just like we saw with the 2010 math standards change. Everybody dropped in 2011, but in 2012 everybody went up a little bit, and then 13, then 14, and now we'll drop again. That's it.
When do you predict the cut scores? When do they have a timeline that the scores will be set?
July is what I'm told is when they're getting the groups together to establish it. I wouldn't think they'd have it till August, and I'm kind of an optimist, so maybe later.
Okay.
Do you remember what they said? I think they said August.
Well, thank you. I'd like to maybe get a little bit more feedback from the teachers and principals, how it went, just the logistics and what I mean, and you may have that already, but...
Well, like I said, I only had some anecdotal stories that teachers and principals and kids have kind of shared with me.
Maybe we can just put out a short little survey or email, or you can go to team leads or whatnot, and just so, because we interact with, lots of community members and people around the state. They're asking us how it went. They want to know how to go for the Higley district.
It went well. I'll tell you, there's, Dr. Nance, can you vouch for this? Are there other districts that had the participation rate we did?
No, and actually what I'm hearing at the state level is our participation was the highest in the state, and we had the smoothest testing anywhere. And so they look at us as a model, and I would expect they'll probably be talking to us after they get all the data in to say, okay, how come it went so smooth? Well, a big part of that has to do with Anna and her team and the preparation and how good they are. So principals did a great job. Anna's team did a great job. But, yeah, I'm hearing other people struggled, had problems, systems couldn't handle it. But we chose to go electronically purposely for two reasons. One is, if that's what the format's going to be in the future, we might as well find out where our weaknesses are.
One of the comments I heard a week ago, I was at the East Valley curriculum meeting, which includes all of the districts in the East Valley, and many of those districts did a combination of computer testing and paper testing, and every single one of them said, we will do everything possible that we have to do all computer testing next year. There was a big difference in how well computer-based testing went as compared to the paper pencil.
There was a lot more involved if you had to do paper-based. In fact, all of the test booklets, grades 3 through 11, were bubble in the book. And if you ever had to bundle the third grade test booklets, lots of people in here have done that, those are horrific and bulky, and I can't even imagine having to ship all those back as scorables because that's a nightmare. But we did really well. I can tell you this too, our kids were so conscientious. We did have a day where there were some glitches, a couple of days where there were glitches, and these kids were so conscientious because they felt like they were not going to get to complete that test, and their assistant principal would call me and I would put in my request to reopen their test, and those kids were so excited when they were approved to go back in and take that test and get it done. They're very conscientious. High school students too. That's the big fear. Everybody's always afraid that high school students aren't going to care. Our high school students care. We have good students in this district. They care about their future, and they care about their school, and they know what they score on that test is a reflection. I believe that strongly. I hear it every day, how great the kids are, and I got to see it. I was impressed.
I think just hearing community members and just anecdotally that it was more of a responsibility thing, that they took kind of ownership and responsible. And I appreciate that, we talked earlier in the year that we didn't want this undue this pressure and our kids freaking out. There's just, what, this is what we do. And we give this mantra, let's, just kind of show them what you know. It's just more of, I'm going to show you. And I felt throughout other communities and other districts that there was just, that they put this pressure on the kids, but our kids just kind of like, okay, I'm just going to tell you what I know, and then we're going to move on to whatever we're going to continue learning tomorrow.
Well, that's been our message. It's everybody's in this same boat. There's nothing to stress about. Do your best. That's all you can do. That's all we expect you to do. It's everybody's in this boat together.
And I appreciate the emails through all the admin that sent out through parents. I mean, because it took, 6 weeks, so we'd see all those emails and newsletters, just have your kids have a good morning and say good luck, and, just do your best. It's okay. And so I know those emails and newsletters have gone out to the community, and I think that helped the parents relax too. So. And
our assistant principals, they were amazing. They were in there figuring things out. They'd call me and say, hey, there's this one glitch. I already figured out how to fix it, and so then I could send that out to everybody else. And they were amazing. The teachers were amazing. I got to see third graders within 20 seconds of saying go already have notes written on the side, and they're expanding their screens, doing things with technology. And I'm pretty technical, that I didn't even know you could do with that. I was just stunned. I did hear that the kids did not like the time to open up the calculator. And so I heard there was a lot more mental math going on, which you don't know about that, meaning to click all the different screens. But I thought we were going to have calculators for all of our kids. They did.
Oh.
Well, they may not have chosen to use it. Oh. They might have wanted to use the cool online one.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.
They'll know, too. Word of mouth will get around them to use the handheld. Yes, it was great. And I can't thank everybody enough for all of it was a coordinated effort, everybody working together, IT, site admin, teachers, and even the kids. Just, they were so wonderful. It was great.
Thank you. Okay, 9.3, for our newer board members, every year the Arizona School Board Association puts together, are we on 9.3 or I missed one?
We're on 9.2. You missed the financial
Sorry.
report.
You've been sitting here all night just for this.
Because you know Laura came for one reason.
Which I actually do have a question. Can E-rate dollars be rolled over from year to year, or do they have to be spent that year? E-rate. It can roll? Okay.
President.
Board members, Mr. Hoffman.
I just have a quick question for you, Laura. On the M&O summary by function and the M&O budget summary by object, it shows grand total budget balance as a negative 463. Can you just explain that, please?
Remember, we changed food service companies at the beginning of the year, and we operated up front. We gave them $423,000. That's a loan. It will be returned before we've met with them already to negotiate some things. That money will be returned in June, and you have a budget revision coming up in a minute that will give you some more money. So it's not unusual to show that. And if you remember last year when I started on June 30th, I opened up our budget and we were $1.2 million in the hole. So it's not unusual. Keep in mind that we encumber everything to what we expect it could be. And as we pay final bills, we start shutting down POs. So thank you for paying attention. You're right.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding financial reports? Okay, 9.3, Arizona School Board Association asks the governing boards to submit their proposed legislative items by May 29th. They want them, so we can, if we want to email things to Cindy, or if you have any suggestions tonight, and then we can just submit those on the 27th meeting. They do ask for 3 things: a long-term, a short-term goals that can be carried through to legislators. If there's any concerns or things that we see that maybe are specific to our district or things that we see statewide, I'd like to see that we address our dropout age. We only require 16-year-old or to attend school till you're 16, in which you're allowed to drop out in the state of Arizona. But that's something I hope they address this legislative session, as well as our district additional assistance and special ed funding and CTE. So those are mine. And I will email those to Cindy, and we can write those up. And if there's any other things you'd like to, you can go ahead and submit them to Cindy.
Just for clarity, governing board, what happens is you send a topic. We then go to the department appropriate, like for instance, special ed funding, we'll go to the business department, sit down, have them draft some language, get it back to you to make sure it captures what you're looking for, and then you have the final decision on all of those, of course. But you don't have to create the language yourself if you're not quite sure, but you know what the topic is. If you can kind of give us the idea of the topic, we'll help have the experts in the field help write it up for you, and then you wordsmith it however you would like.
Well, you know, and Mr. Hoffman, if you ever hear anything, we'd like to know too what's coming down. Thank you. Okay, 9.4. We tabled that to our next board meeting for May 27th. And thank you to those. We heard a work study earlier today, and thank you to those who participated in that. 9.5. I move that the governing board approves the 2014-2015 revised budget number 2 in accordance with ARS 15-905G as presented. Okay, any questions or comments? Any explanations? So is this our normal growth rate that came in, and this is the final number that, you know, it was kind of pretty close to what we were proposing?
It's a little better. A little better than we predicted. So we're gaining more students. So that was a good number to have. We're very excited about it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. 9.6. Is it Mr. Hoffman?
I move that we approve the amendment of the intergovernmental agreement with the town of Gilbert to clarify terms of use of facilities.
Second. Do you have questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. 9.7, we have a request for proposal renewals for fiscal year 2015-2016. I move that the governing board approves the RFP renewals for the vendors listed for fiscal year 2015-2016.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, 9.8.
President Whitener.
Mr. Hoffman.
I move that we approve the settlement agreement regarding construction defects at Williamsfield High School.
Second.
Seconded. Is there any questions or comments?
President Whitener, I have a question.
Mr. Little.
Does the settlement prevent, let's say, construction, repairs are made, and during the repairs there are more problems found? Does the settlement prevent any further?
No, it does not. It only covers, the settlement covers the known defects that we have uncovered to date. If we move forward and 2-3 years from now, we can go ahead and reopen another case for more settlements.
So it isn't a no recourse settlement.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. 9.9, we approve previous year's invoices. I move that the governing board approves payment of the outlined expenditures from the prior year.
I'll second.
We have Salt River from adjacent funds, Higley Performing Arts Center. Seconded by
President White.
Mr. Little. Mr. Hoffman.
A question, Dr. Birdwell. It may have said this in there, but just for the record, can you help me understand why they didn't get paid last year?
Yes, Mr. Hoffman, President White, and members of the board. The bills did not come in from SRP from a billing error on their part. They did come in a year later, and because of the way education is funded, we had to go back and ask for approval to go back to previous years. And working through that process with SRP and with our school finance director, it has taken us this long to go ahead and get everything put together in a correct manner to bring it to the board.
Okay, so, and I appreciate that, and thank you for clarifying. I guess the question I would have, and maybe it doesn't work like this in the public sector, but if a vendor that my company uses gives us an invoice a year later, we tell them go pound sand, or we give them, or we talk through it with them, and we get it reduced or something like that, because this messes with our books. I mean, we didn't expect to have, what is that, $278,500 come out of this year's adjacent wage fund. And so what recourse, what discussions have been had to that effect?
Well, Laura probably has a better experience with some of that, but I will say sometimes we win that battle, and we do say, I'm so sorry, we're not going to go back, and sometimes we win the fight, and we've done that with other companies that have made those errors. I'll let Laura address this particular issue.
We haven't really committed to pay that full amount, but because we are in negotiations and I don't want this to roll to next year, we're asking the governing board for permission to pay this bill when we negotiate. That is the full amount at this point in time. They are a utility, and it's a combination of the perfect storm that you lose that much, and we're in agreement with you that we don't really feel we should have to pay it all. then again, we don't want to lose our electricity, so.
Yeah,
I doubt that this is billed on our electricity invoice. I mean, this is a separate invoice for installation of lines.
Yes, it was in there, and that's why it will be paid from.
I highly doubt that SRP would want the PR battle if they cut off the electricity.
There's a lot of people that don't want that, but at the same time, we're not necessarily. That is the full amount of the invoice, and I have to come to the governing board for permission. As they explained, this is an old year that I'm paying from this year. Those funds are allowed to roll forward, so we did roll 300 and some odd thousand in that amount, in that fund. So,
which I assume we were counting on for the construction
of course we're counting on it,
bridges.
Yes.
Right.
I can spend it in a lot of different ways. I don't need to pay an old year's bill, but at the same time, I have to have permission, and I don't want to not be able to pay it, and I want this resolved before.
So Dr. Birdwell and Laura, is there any way that we can approve this subject to final approval or something? I mean, I don't want to handcuff the process because I understand what you're saying about not wanting it to roll another year.
We'll be happy to come back and tell you what we paid and whether we pay the full amount or not. But I think in order to make decisions and make it happen, we need to add.
I guess my point, Laura, is that we have 3 meetings left this year, and so to approve it at a full amount, knowing that we are arguing to get a lesser amount, it seems like there might be an opportunity to actually approve what the correct amount that will be paid is.
Okay.
But by all means, that's an option, and we've been fighting them on it, and we can continue to fight. And then I don't know what Laura's drop dead. Absolutely, you have to have a settlement by so she can balance the books. Moment is, but yes, we've been fighting them on it. We've been trying to push that envelope.
I just have one last question.
Sure.
So we you stated that we rolled money already
from the prior year.
About $300K from the prior year.
Yes.
I assume we're going to roll money again, right? So theoretically, there's no harm done if it did roll to next year.
I have to come back up and beg forgiveness and stupidity again.
Yeah, well,
I think as long as we're on the loop,
just as long as we know that we could get an audit hit on something like that, because but it's already an audit hit because you're already that far out. You know, they don't like it when we don't pay the bills, and so. But yeah, I mean, we can roll it forward and keep arguing with them, and then there will come a moment where it's kind of like we have to pay the bill.
But if they come up to them and I say, well, I'll tell you what, if you agree, I'll send it out on the next voucher and I'll split it in half with you. Do I have to say no? Now I have to come back to the governing board to get permission to take that discount?
I must have missed that.
Does she need to come back to the board to approve a discounted payment?
So maybe could the recommendation of the board this evening be to continue to negotiate, and if the team is able to get this bill reduced, to authorize us to go forward so that we don't lose the deal?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
And I know, Dr. Birdwell, you have met with SRP before and maybe they want to see you again.
Oh, but I'm sure they do.
Well, I mean, and they do. I mean, they are pretty receptive when.
Yeah, I mean, they do get that we're a school system, and it really throws our budget way out of whack not to do something like this. And Dr. Thomason has actually been the great negotiator in that. So I think to continue to negotiate that, but if you could authorize us this evening to continue the negotiations, and if we were to get it reduced, to be able to go forward so that we don't lose the deal, I think that would be great. But we can keep fighting the battle. I think it's worth fighting.
I lied. I have one last question. Don't we have a ton of attorneys that we have access to? I'm just curious why we're negotiating it directly rather than having one of our attorneys negotiate it.
Well, anytime we can leave it, Ms. Good is not here, is she? Anytime we can leave an attorney out of a discussion and come to a resolution, sometimes it moves more rapidly. Once attorneys get engaged in it, then sometimes slows the process to the point of stalemate, and then what you're paying are legal fees for hours that attorneys, billable hours is what we call them. And typically, if we're going to look at potential litigation, it's the trust, and that is a prepaid fee. It doesn't mean we're not paying for it. So yeah, we can, and Linda negotiates a lot of things, as you saw tonight with the town. She did the IGA. But I think we take another swipe at it with Laura and Dr. Thomason, and if we need to bring Linda in, we certainly can. President?
Just a comment, maybe a question. I think the district should meet its obligations in good faith. But if there's an opportunity to benefit from, hiccups, we could. But I think it would be appropriate for the board to approve the amount. We're going to meet our obligation in good faith. There's an opportunity to take advantage of it.
I think so. They've admitted there's.
So my question then is, was no payment made for the services, or some payment was made and there's a balance that SRP found?
For the boxes of the electric company putting in on our land, no payment was made at that time. They failed to bill us in a timely manner for that year. They recognized their mistake and they billed us in the next year. I have been working with them to try to get it reduced for the last 6-7 months to negotiate a better deal.
You know, Mr. Hoffman, you bring such a great point. I have in the past had a letter from the attorney to companies who do this, which has caused them to think twice. And maybe we'll talk to Ms. Good about a letter that actually reminds them that they're out of sequence and time, again, has caused us an issue. Maybe just the fact that it has an attorney's name on it may make them take pause and think about that reduction.
Well, and that their fiduciary duty as a public-private company is to ensure that the taxpayers' funds are well spent at the appropriate time.
And at the appropriate time, absolutely. So,
and that we only have a certain window in order to accomplish this, or it's going to roll, and it can roll for 5 years as far as I'm concerned. But
yeah, so Ms. Good has given me the thumbs up, so she'll get engaged in that with us. Thank you. That's a great point.
Okay. Here you go.
I got a question. Just a quick question. Is this bill coming to us? I see, because it was at the time of the construction. Is it coming to us because we are the landowners, or did it just get missed in the construction cost? Because that was...
This is an SRP issue. They just flat forgot to send a bill for the installation of the electrical boxes.
Right, but we didn't pay for the construction of our middle schools.
Oh, there's a certain portion that we have to pay because we own the land. You're absolutely correct.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, water connections and electrical connections were all ours.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Those who approve those payment invoices on to direct staff to continue to engage with Ms. Good to further resolve the payment issue. Good. Who made the motion? I said, who made the motion?
You did.
I did.
I seconded.
Okay. I amend my motion to go ahead and move forward to approve the payment invoices with under guidance and direction with Ms. Good regarding the SRP issue.
Do you accept that? Mr. Little?
Do you accept that?
Yeah, I'll second the amendment. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
I'd like to see us wait till we know the final amount, so nay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, 10.0, any other future agenda items?
President Whitener.
Mr. Hoffman.
Dr. Birdwell, Dr. Thomason, just as we discussed earlier, I'd like to see us bring a policy provision to protect that early release for PLCs and PD.
Any others? Okay, 11.0, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Cindy, she waved her hand and said she didn't get it. She didn't get what I asked.